Hola mi gente, ¿cómo estás? My glasses are fucking dirty. How are y'all doing and how are y'all living? I don't know. I'm just in this very introspective place right now where I'm journaling and I'm doing all the things to heal myself. And thus far, I feel really good. There's times that I'm down, there's times that I'm not in a good space heart-wise, but for the most part, I feel really good up in here. I don't know if it has to do with not elevating. A lot of that is what makes it kind of scary because I have to face what's going on in my life, and sometimes I don't like it. Like sometimes reality is gross, but on the flip side of it, it's like a push giving me that nudge that I needed. It's because I had so much stagnancy, you know, not helping me at all. So I'm definitely happy to feel like I am moving in the right direction. Things in the house have calmed since I had that first incident when I got back, but there's always a calm before a storm, so I'm not letting that lull me into a false sense of security because I know I've lived this life, I've walked this walk, I've done this before. We've all been here before. Well, I hope not all of y'all, because honestly, like, domestic violence is not cool and none of that shit is cool, but I've done this before. There's been a calm before a storm. Here lately, myself and me have had a few little tiny epiphanies about myself. So in my life, I felt responsible for a lot of things because it was put to me in a way that made me feel that way. So whatever happened between my mother and my bio, it was made to feel like it was my fault, correct? So I took that for everything. Anytime anyone was unhappy, anytime anyone felt bad, anytime anyone felt anything that was in a negative response, I felt responsible for it, even if I had nothing to do with it. I was always very apologetic because number one, I felt their pain, and number two, I really felt responsible for a lot of things, even if they were beyond my control. Even as a youth, I felt like that it was my fault. So carrying a burden that was given to me by my mother at a young age carried up into my adulthood. So me and R have been talking, and as a matter of fact, I look back at our conversation and we have been talking actually regularly, which is weird for us because we take months off. And 1, 2, skip a few, 3, 4, skip some more, you know what I mean? Like, that's our communication style. So from August until it's almost November, we've been kind of consistently talking to each other, which is kind of weird for us. But anyways, I noted and I feel things through text message sometimes where people feel like their energy's off. So a few days back, I first asked him, was he tired? Because I was just like, it's late and maybe he's tired. And he never really responded to that part. We started talking about other stuff. So then the following day, I'm like, yo, I feel something in your energy. Are you okay? And he's like, it's been a really rough week, you know, but I'm coping and I'm dealing with it. You know, I'm here for you whenever you need me or whatever. Just let me know. And I'll be here for you. So I'm gonna leave you alone for the rest of the night, just letting him know, you know, like, damn, that little ass thing is making all that fucking noise. It looks like from here, it looks like it's that big. But, and then just hit me up whenever. And he was like, no, it's okay, don't worry about it. And I remember early on, because one of the questions that I ask early on when I'm getting to know someone is about triggers that make them mad. So and how they react when they're upset. So he withdraws when he's upset, which is completely understandable because I do the same thing. So he's like, you know, when I'm upset, I'm kind of withdrawn and I don't really talk. And I remember that from whenever we first started talking. And so I sent them a message and I was like, yo, I remember a long time ago you had told me that when you're upset, you don't really like to talk, so I want to give you the space. But after you're done needing space and you want me back in your space, I'm here, you know? And so he was like, no, babe, it's good. You know, I want you in my space. And I said, but then I didn't really carry on the conversation much further because I felt like the energy was off and maybe he needed to deal with things that were going on, because he said it was both work and home that was kind of like getting under his skin. And typically on the weekends we don't talk. He has a kid, and you know what I mean, like family obligations, and I don't like to disrupt any of that stuff. So I typically won't contact him through the weekend. So maybe on Monday I'll check in again and see, or not, I don't know. But that was the first time that I didn't take on the feeling that I did something wrong. It was the first time that I took on, you know, well, he has outside things, he could be influencing how he feels right now. So I felt like that was like a sign that I was moving in the right direction, because normally I would be very persistent about what's wrong, what's going on, and kind of like prying and, you know, trying to figure it out. So number one, I could fix it because I'm solution based and I like to have a solution. And number two is just because I wanted to make sure it wasn't me. But I didn't do that this time, and I felt really, really proud of myself that I actually was able to not have that situation affect me in any way. It felt really nice, honestly, just to feel like I didn't need to fix the situation and the situation wasn't caused by me. The journaling and this affirmation book from Alex Elle has been really, really beneficial, and I've only done it for 2 days, but the journaling I've been doing off and on and off and on for a while now, when I was in therapy, is a lot more consistent. But I don't know if I told you guys, but I did text my therapist to check on her. Yes, I know it's weird, but I did text my therapist to check on her because I felt like she might be going through something at this time. Although it may not be the most professional of things that go on in a therapy session, we did develop quite a personal relationship, and she means a lot to me. So she told me like 5 or 6 years ago that she had a stroke, and then she started going through health things during the time that I was seeing her. So I was quite worried about her, and I hadn't heard from her in about 4 to 5 months, and I was going to her twice a week. And so we had a lot of time together, and I feel really safe with her, which is why it's hard for me to actually move on to find another therapist, because of the relationship that I had with her. I was willing to wait for her because I feel that comfortable with her, and she knows all my situations, and to have to like go through all of that stuff again was giving me anxiety. To have to open up again, to feel safe again, to go through all that, it was just giving me anxiety. So each time I log on and look for another therapist, I'm like, oh God, you know. But then Kimana's therapist, the same thing happened. Now Kimana was seeing my therapist plus a separate therapist, and her therapist was thinking about leaving the platform. And what I had told her was, maybe this is the end of your journey with this person, but pick up from where you left off. Anything that's unresolved and still needs working on, then you move on to the new therapist with that. You don't have to go all the way back, but you can just pick up where you are and move forward with that therapist. And she was like, yeah, that makes sense. And so I guess we're both going to be on the hunt for new therapists, but I have to take those words into account for myself as well, because I just need to pick up from where I left off with my therapist. And like, I did all the homework, I do all the things. I really want to heal. That's the goal. So one of the first prompts in the book was, I don't know how she phrased it in the book, but it was just like, who do you see yourself as, basically. And I said that I see myself as a broken, unhealed person that's seeking out healing, a person that is afraid to receive love but willing to give it, but at the same time is afraid to give all of herself. And as you work through these prompts and you go through these affirmations and stuff, you do uncover a lot about yourself. So last night I sat and I did a few pages because I really just felt compelled to do so. So I did about 3 pages. The idea was for me to do a page a night, but last night I felt compelled to do more, so I did. And I also read out of my book, what was it? Polysecure. So looking at attachment styles, and I am like the anxious attachment and all that stuff. So reading into all that stuff, a lot of that really makes me look at myself and look at how I deal with people in relationships, whether it be in a friendly way, whether it be in a relationship, whether it be familial, whatever the way I deal with people, it's kind of all in the same style. And coming up, you will mimic those things, right? So however you got your attachment style from your parents, if they were cold and distant, then you might become very withdrawn when you're in a relationship. If you were feeling afraid a lot, you might enter into stuff like that. You know, like there's just so many things that if you had this type of attachment style as a child, it plays out in your future. So it's kind of interesting to see how much I mimicked my childhood attachment style and how it played out in my adulthood. It's just very interesting. I like reading these types of books. I remember like reading the kids when they were in utero, all these books on psychology and how the mind works and neurotransmitters and how they signal off and fire off and stuff like that. Is just how your body works as a whole has always been very fascinating to me. I liken it to a car and the engine, and me and my dad spoke the same language, albeit differently, because he would liken the car to a body and I would liken the body to a car. And so it's just interesting to me to see all these things play out now, but it is making me look at how I entered into this situation and how I, entered into other situations, and how my attachment style and why actually it is hard for me to actually fall in love, and why infatuation is probably as far as I can get in relationships. And all that stuff now totally makes sense to me. So I don't know, I just feel like a big shift coming, a growth coming, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited for what's next, and I'm excited for my life to shift and change. And I'm uncomfortable but comfortable, right? And I'm always like in these two realms all the time, because my life is like really on the cusp of things. Like I'm separated, and I've been separated almost 2 years, but I still live with this person, but I'm living a life that's different than that person. And like, it's just crazy. It's crazy to live in two realms simultaneously and to live two lives at the same time. But that's what's happening here. And all I know is that I'm proud of my awareness of things. I've always been really self-aware, but while I was dulling all those senses, I wasn't being very mindful about myself and what's going on with me, whereas other times I have. And I'm definitely going to try to keep being mindful. I'm definitely going to keep trying to focus on what I need to focus on, because this is what is kind of giving me serenity right now, is putting the pieces together where they need to go, and learning how to compartmentalize things, and put things where they need to go without specific, I don't know which elevation, probably Indica. Without Indica, I feel like I'm a lot more calm, which is weird. My cousin has the vice versa. He's really like on sativa, it's awful for him. And then with Indica, he's like very different. But for me, Indica is the one that gets me really into my feelings, the one that really, really gets me emotional, the one that really, really gets me riled up and gets me into my subconscious self. I really want no parts of it. So, and if I'm already anxious and I'm already going through other things, it's just one of those like balls of emotions, and then it comes at you, and not being so like chaotic myself, and not being so like lost myself. So that's what I'm feeling right now, is that now I'm finally finding my way. I think once I get out of this space, I will be able to calmly elevate, because I won't have so much chaos going on around me. And I guess that's why my channel always like focuses on the chaos, is because in my mind there's always chaos. Even when I'm like this and I'm talking to you like this, there's chaos in the background, but right now there's not. Like, I'm right here in this moment with you, and I don't hear anything else, and I don't feel anything else. It's almost as if there is a super calmness that's coming over me, and I like the way it feels. A clear mind has really been helping me, and it's helping me to get to where I need to be. It's not making me so focused on everything else. However, comma, because there's always a however, comma. I've always been kind of hormonal, and I had like an addiction back in the day to sex. And then I turned it off because I wasn't being intimate, sexual, whatever you want to call it, with my ex. And then I turned it back on. So then it became like this thing in my head where it was just my driven force of like, that's all I could think about, is when I'm gonna have it next, when I'm gonna do it, like who I'm gonna do it. Like, it's just like, it's just there. It's there, and it would be in the back of my mind. It came up in every conversation. It's like a teenage boy emerging out of my body again, and I want to shut all that shit down again. I just really want to shut it down. So today is the first day that I wasn't feeling completely like I need to jump on somebody and release something. But to put that back into Pandora's box is not going to be as easy as just stopping smoking, because I really feel like I trade one addiction for another one, and I feel like that's kind of the trade-off. So if you're not going to be primarily focused on elevating, then where are you going to put your energy? Like, what are you going to do? Because you need to do something, right? And it turns out that's where it went. But even while elevating, it was worse while I was elevating, trust. Like, I don't know, but I definitely need to focus and keep that off my mind too. Or maybe one day in the future I will find that partner with the same exact sex drive as me, and I will be fine. But for now, I just need to close off anything that cannot serve me in the higher, to elevate myself into a greater purpose. So I don't know, it's just very interesting about things like that. I was also thinking, while I was thinking about all that, with my sexual trauma and the style of sex that I enjoy, if they are linked. Like, I had told you in the past, I'm pretty violent in the boudoir. So I had wondered if those two things are linked. Now, I've always been, I like I said, I lost my virginity at 14, and I was the initiator. I pushed him on the ground. I did all the things. I was the initiator. But as time progressed, I don't know if it's just because I figured out what I liked, or is it linked to trauma. And I want to make sure the two aren't linked, because I am very violent. But I feel in my heart that I truly just enjoy this, but I also realize that I am detached. When people talk to me about intimacy, it makes me uncomfortable sometimes. And I'm a person that doesn't make eye contact during sex and stuff like that. I don't like really looking at the person. So that's what makes me think, like, is this traumatized or not? Because there's a lot of things as far as intimacy goes that I don't like to do. Like kissing during sex, I won't do, and stuff like that. Like, I don't typically do all those things. And I don't know. It's just a very interesting time in my life where I'm trying to figure this stuff out, And maybe I do want the closeness, but I'm afraid of it. Maybe I do want to feel the intimacy of another person, but looking into their eyes is scary for me during that intimacy, you know? I had an ex when I was 16, which everyone is telling me that apparently he was grooming me because he was 20. I don't think he could. We never actually had sex. And everything was done on my terms. Whether we hold hands was on my terms, whether we kissed was on my terms, whether we cuddled was on my terms. So if anything, I was grooming him. Not either way, he is no longer with us, so I don't want to speak ill of him, and I don't in any way, shape, or form feel like he groomed me. But he was probably the last person that I looked into their eyes and kissed, or I looked into their eyes and touched or held hands with. So it's been a long time since I've made that type of intimate connection, and maybe that's because I'm scared of intimacy, because even with my ex, at the height of our sexual chemistry, which we had very amazing sexual chemistry in the beginning, I didn't like kissing him during sex. I wouldn't do it. It was a totally separate situation, and I don't know, it's just very weird. He would always ask me to kiss him, and I would be like, nah, or I would cover his face with a pillow, or I would face another way, or something that just removed the eye contact aspect of things. I'm totally fine with doing any and everything minus kissing. It's very strange. So I do know for a fact that this is a lack of intimacy. I have a problem with intimacy thing. As loving as I am, as touching as I am, and all that stuff, I have problems with being intimate during times of intimacy. So it's something that I do need to work on. My battery is dying. Let's go. It's something that I do need to work on and figure out what it is that causes this to happen for me. I have a lot of learning about myself, and pointing these things out is helping me to learn what I need to work on, because I can't go partially healed into something, and I want to be fully healed for me. I want my whole soul and well-being to be intact for myself. To walk around healed is on a whole nother level. What is it even like? I don't know. I have shit in my throat. I don't even know, but I do want to know, and I want to experience it. So come along on the journey with me, and we'll see. I love you guys. Thank you. Bye. I'm out of here, y'all. Love you.